Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis. I'm a growth strategist where I help business owners grow, scale, cut costs, and increase profit. And today, I have an awesome guest. He's an entrepreneur, co-founder of Alchemy Cast, experienced management professional, and is passionate about making a difference in healthcare. He's the podcast host of two podcasts, including Grind, Sell, Elevate, where he helps professionals expand their knowledge in a variety of business facets, along with being the podcast host of The Book Legion, where he helps by providing resources for valuable books that will accelerate your growth. Welcome, Tyzer Evans, and thank you for being on my show.
Hey, thanks you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the warm welcome.
Yeah, you're very welcome, mate. Awesome to have you here. I'm sure there's going to be huge amounts of value for everyone watching and listening today. So initially, you're a very successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, just please introduce yourself by telling us about you and your journey.
Sure. Well, I don't know where we want to start with the journey. It's a long one, it feels like to me. But yeah, I grew up in a small town in Northern California, and I did not know what I wanted to do when I grew up, other than I knew that I wanted to have my own business. And I saw my aunt who was wildly successful, and I saw how she lived, and I said, no, that really interests me. So I took a journey down to San Diego when I graduated high school, which, is not a tough place to live, and kind of just, went to college down there and kind of fell my way into insurance and got into management and leadership. And that was some really cool experiences early on with, having some unique experiences with flipping different types of sales teams in the field and some call center experience. And at the same time, I started a couple of my own businesses and started to scale those on the side. I was able to sell. And then since then, I think my wife and I have had 5 different businesses. Now we dabble in real estate. You mentioned Alchemy Cast is a new project. So it's just busy life now with the 2 kids as well. And we got a lot going on.
Yeah, awesome, man. Love that experience. And yeah, being able to start all those different businesses and keep moving on and different spaces. And you mentioned about the sales side of things. And I think, sales is one of the most important skills to have in business, right? Without sales, we don't really have a business without clients. So, with your experience there, do you want to maybe firstly share, maybe how do you define sales? Because I think the definition of sales is probably a little bit interesting for some people about what sales actually is. So do you want to maybe just go a little bit about, how you define sales too?
Sure. I think, to make it really short and sweet, it's like the ultimate form of communication. Really just in a nutshell, it's the way you can communicate and be heard, right? By getting another person's guard down, but it's also the way that you listen more importantly. I think that people perceive sales as you have to be someone that is big in persuasion. And for me, I've had the most success by being a really intent and effective listener, more than anything, and just being likable. Of course, I've read all the sales books, but for me, I fell in love with it because I naturally like to talk to people. And I'm just naturally curious. And so it's been a beautiful profession for me.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Love that. And so true about communication, listening more. And I love the point about curiosity that you said there, because that's so important, to be able to be open to things as well. So do you want to maybe go a little bit deeper and just talking about what key things should we be doing in our sales process or potentially not doing at the same time as well?
So it's interesting. So I'm training a couple of guys right now they're brand new to sales. And so it's always really interesting to see a new person's perspective to sales. And it is, one of the things I was actually, we're doing role playing yesterday, and really sharp guy. And we were talking I was talking to him a lot about, you just gotta be yourself. Like people, it's interesting. They'll change their tonality. They'll change the way that they say things because they feel that they have to present a certain type of persona. And so for me, I'm like, when you call somebody, especially for someone who's heavy on the phones, you're making cold calls, I'm like, just keep it short and tight. So for me, I always go in and just tell people, I'm like, who are you? What's the reason for your call? And then ask a question. It doesn't have to be anything more than that, right? You want to make the entire conversation when you get going, not about yourself. Nobody cares about you, your product, your good or service, right? Because you haven't established any type of credibility. So the best way though is to be very transparent. There's no trickery about why you're calling, but I just lead right in with a nice, what I call power question. and usually involves something about their industry, maybe about their company that I read, or maybe even about them personally that I found on LinkedIn, to start to lower their guard and have them be receptive to just having a conversation. And then through the oasis of asking really great questions, they continue to lower their guard. You start to become a little bit more trustworthy throughout the conversation, building rapport. And then you can start to use, strategical questions to extract information, or you can start to flip the power shift, right? The power paradigm. Well, then you kind of start to control the conversation a bit more and get a bit more into your pitch.
Yeah, love it, man. Really awesome. And yeah, I think the control of it, or, there's different frames as well, right, in sales, where it's like, I think there's a bit of a disparity now where, I've heard the line, people don't like to be sold to, but they like to buy, right? Mm-hmm. So, it's not about trying to sell someone. We've got to make people get into a bit of a buying mentality. So we want to be like, we have this awesome thing, whatever it is that we're selling at the time. And they're like, they really want that. So, is there some things about, certain ways about how we can position ourselves, I guess, so that people are like more intrigued to actually come to us rather than us having to, to push too much, onto them as well?
Yeah, I think, again, it goes back to the questions. And to your point, right, if you can have what they call like pressure sales, right? That still exists out there. I get hit up by telemarketers and they ramble on for the first 3 minutes. You don't get a word in and you get kind of annoyed. But some people, they fall for that because they have a hard time saying no. But what people don't realize is when you have that churn and burn type mentality, then there's no customer loyalty. And, it's a huge expense for your company if you're just hitting a one-off and then you have to go to the next one, or then you upset somebody, and then it's a wasted lead. So what I usually, tell my guys to do is we have a set of 10 to 15 different, what I said, the power questions. And power questions to me are meant to really help that person uncover things about their business or their market, their industry that they didn't know existed, or loopholes or blind spots that didn't know existed. So you're able to start to provide value, and you can start to show that you're an expert because you're very knowledgeable about it. So I've worked insurance for a long time, and I've worked with a lot of insurance brokers and insurance consultants. And one of the things that they don't always get asked is when I call in and we start having a discussion. One of my favorite questions is like, how do you differentiate yourself from competition? And that's not a typical question that you ask in this industry, right? And you usually get two different answers. You usually get, oh, we give great customer service and, we're technology forward. I'm like, yeah, well, that's, and I'll be very transparent, very direct. And I go, I really appreciate that. And I'm glad that you have key focuses on that area. But to be honest with you, I work with over 700 different brokers across the country, and all of them really say that. So really, how are you differentiating yourself? And then that kind of gets them to really think. And I go, well, maybe I'm not really sure. And I go, well, here's how we're helping our clients win business. Because our product's a key differentiator because of XYZ, right? So you kind of pinpointed a blind spot. We let them talk, nicely, tactfully told them that that's basically what everybody else is doing in the marketplace. But then I'm able to kind of swing in what we're doing a little bit different. So that's just the one example of a question that will get people to think differently, but it also position myself in a way where I can show what I do well and use my product as a true differentiator.
Yeah, I love that. Really awesome. And, I think that comes down to sort of seeding in sales, right? Where you're saying, hey, let me give you an example of mine, but you're actually seeding how you help people at the same time without sort of asking them to do it. And then they're like, oh, that's interesting. Like that there. So it's, which is a key thing as well, where, I think for everybody to sort of say things before you get to that point, or as much as you can, so that people are aware of it before it gets to the point of, what you do and how you can help them. So love that, mate. And, I guess obviously with sales, businesses are growing and things like that. And we want to be scaling our business, right? We want to move it up to that point to get more people in and, increase revenue and profits and things like that. So do you want to maybe get into some key drivers, I guess, on what we need to take into consideration to ensure that we scale successfully, in our business as well?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been a part of, some Fortune 100 companies here, and having done my own e-commerce businesses, consulting stuff. And so you get a lot of different, I've seen a lot of different modalities. And what's interesting is that there's so much disconnect. It's kind of that old that adage that sales and marketing are at each other, right? And it's really true. A lot of time that they're not talking. I remember this is maybe 9 years ago. I was working for a big Fortune 100 company, and I remember they were spending like $10 million a month on ads. And so we're getting, the leads are coming in, and we go back to marketing and we go, well, what was our ROI? Like how we perform off of the money that we spent. And they go, oh, well, we don't track like what you guys sell from the leads. I was like, you're spending $10 million a month and you have no idea if sales is able to deliver on the advertisements that you're running. And that was just like mind blowing to me, like the inefficiencies, right? Well, then how do you know that the money you're spending should it be TV? Should it be internet, right? Should it be print? Should we be doing more in-person events? So that was really fascinating. It kind of opened my eyes that everything I've done forward, where I've been in a position of leadership with my own company or working with a company or consulting for a company, is that you have to have sales and marketing come to the same table, And even nowadays, I think it's important to have the fluidity of making sure that ops is involved, sales enablement is involved, and everybody clearly understands exactly where they're at. And it just a lot more fluid. And then, from a true sales perspective, one of the last businesses that I was tasked with helping is that we took it from 8 million to 25 million and right after about 24 months. And, they just didn't have a clear visibility on their metrics. And so it went in and we just drilled down on the numbers. And a lot of the philosophy with sales organizations is like, hey, just show up, jump in your CRM, hit your 40 dials, or you need to make X amount of contacts. And it's a very blanket number for however many sales reps you have. And this has been in pretty much any big organization I have. They just kind of have a blanket number, and that's the target you have to hit for the day. And so I think that that's completely inefficient. So when I drill down on numbers, I know that, Jim over here, he may only need to hit 30 calls to hit his targeted number, but, Sally over here, she may need to hit 80. So I understand the disparity in the strengths and weaknesses. So I break down the conversion ratio of all the different sales processes and components as well, to understand that this person may need to make 80 calls to get a opportunity in the door. But once the opportunity in the door, they may have a really much higher closing ratio than Tim over here, who's great at getting opportunities in the door. But, he couldn't close the front door if his life depended on him. So, when you get granular with the numbers, it allows you to be a much better coach, either as an entrepreneur or as a leader. And once you have those numbers fine-tuned to everybody on your team, and you understand their conversion ratios, and then you understand where you want to be overall as an organization, then it's just a plug and play with numbers to be able to scale. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, love it, mate. Really powerful there on, just how important numbers are and having KPIs around those things, and knowing, what all those different variables are with the people and the business units. And that's all, I guess, good in, business that's growing. But I know at the same time, maybe there's some issues in markets. Maybe there's things called dead markets or something like that, where things are a bit more challenging. So do you want to maybe talk a little bit about if there's a challenging market, how we can still grow, in those times as well?
Yeah. So, historically, that market I was explaining to you was actually here in Texas, and they had not had any market penetration and historically struggled for a decade. And so again, the first thing I did was I analyzed numbers, and then we just got present in the community. I'm a huge fan of Grant Cardone and 10X mentality. So we really embraced that, just to go omnipresent and to hit the market hard. And so I went out on the road, got involved in the community. I did as much outreach as, facing people, what we call broker face as possible. So I just went out and I did seminars. We brought people in. It wasn't meant to be a pitch. We didn't pitch them on anything. It was meant to be purely educational, to be thought leaders in the space. So, we kind of went in and we would blanket call a market for 3 weeks before the event and let them know, hey, we're coming to town. And usually I would try to use like a buzzword in the industry, especially for insurance. Things like reference-based pricing are now captives are a big buzzword. And so I focused my whole presentation on things that I knew that only a small number of people were doing in the marketplace, but I knew would get the attention. Because a lot of times, as things come out with new marketing objectives in all kinds of different industries, whether it could be SaaS or insurance, or different types of fintech, crypto's big, NFTs, people know about it, but they don't spend the time to go deep on it, although they know that they should. So if you can be the one person that creates a buzz within a certain area, and you're going to be talking about something that nobody else is talking about, and you can be seen as a thought leader in that really helped us. And so we just kind of blanketed Texas and Louisiana with events, just set up the calls before and emails, and then did a drip campaign. And then I went and showed up, and we had some really great turnouts, and that was instrumental in helping flip those markets.
Yeah, love it, mate. All those different areas. I'm sure everyone's taking some keynotes about, how to really amplify it, right? In a lot of different ways of reaching out to people and doing the events. And I think the event space is really powerful. Like, I do my own virtual events and plan to do in-person events soon as well. And I think, the connection of people, right, is a big thing now, especially, post sort of COVID times as we are now. It's still lingering around, but I think, we're sort of getting over it, which is great. And people are still screaming out over there. I know that that's happening now in Australia, where more people are coming to those events. I guess maybe from your side, just the perspective on events, are you seeing more people sort of heading out more, in the US? Is that sort of where it's heading now too?
Yeah. So, I got to be careful, Athin, but I live in Texas. And so, we were about 9 months into COVID, and here, there were definitely the big MSAs or the big metro cities were a bit more precautious, but most people in Texas got over it by 2021. And so I was out of my office 3 months, and we were back in office in person. So it didn't really slow us down here, but I'm from California, so a lot of people out there, and they're in full on lockdown. So I think it just depends on what part of the country you're from, and how people viewed it. But definitely I would say now, across the board with maybe San Francisco and like Philadelphia, everything's pretty much open and it's back to normal.
Yeah, awesome, mate. So everyone, whether you're in Australia, US, or anywhere else, create some things where you can get some people involved, because people want to get out there now and get that connection as well. And I guess with connection in business as well, it's about leadership, right? We've got to make sure we're great leaders ourselves, whether at the top of the business or we're in the management roles, below there, that we want to be great leaders there in the business. So do you want to maybe share a little bit about leadership and why it's important, to become better leaders as well?
Yeah, well, culture is everything. It was that saying that people don't leave bad companies, they leave bad leaders. And I can tell you, I left 2 companies over bad leadership, 100%. Great products, fantastic companies. I just didn't believe in the leadership or their vision or the direction or the way that they, quote unquote, mentored people. So leadership, I think, really starts with the foundation of culture and having fun and being transparent. There's a weird type of hierarchy, at least definitely here in the States, with these multinational corporations, where it feels like a lot of secrecy. It's like once you get past a certain level, you don't know really what's going on the levels above you. And so there's so much disconnect. And when there's disconnect, there becomes discontent, right? And then people they can start to have this toxic mentality that these guys up here are doing something, they're making way more money. And so then it creates an environment that doesn't have to be that way. So for me, with people that I've always managed, and I've had, I feel like some good success and a lot of loyalty with people that I've worked with. And it's because I just make the environment fun, transparent, and direct. And, I always see myself as just another extension, especially running sales teams. I tell them, hey, I'm another sales guy with, some approval power for like reports, right? And so I'm out in the field with you, I'm out in the trenches, but I also take time to get to know my people. What oftentimes what sales managers and what leaders do is they go, here are your KPIs. Here's a rough framework to kind of hit it. Go do that. And if you don't, then we'll talk at your review, and the review is going to go good or it's going to go bad, right? And that's just kind of the way it works. And so for me, one of the things I've always done when I've taken over a new office, helping a business, is you sit down with every single person on the team, irrespective if they're in sales or not. And I want to get to know the person. The best way to get to know a person is understanding their goals, what motivates them, what drives them. And so I have them list 3 to 5 professional and personal goals. So once I have their personal and professional goals, and we set out a time to draw a roadmap, because what's it, you'd probably know this better than me, but it's like the 3% of people set their goals, and then out of the 3% that actually set their goals, it's like maybe 0.5% that actually follow through on them. So we hear it that we should be doing this, but it's actually a really unique concept for people to sit down and do this exercise. So I make everybody on my team do it, and people would actually get really about it. They like owning it. And then once we sit down, and I do their personal as well, because I want to know who they are. I want to know about their family. I want to know if they're motivated to buy a house. I want to know if they're motivated to get married and have a wedding to pay for, right? These things are important to me, so I can help understand and help them hit their goals. It's not just about them hitting their KPI. I don't really care about that. If I can help them achieve their personal goals, the business part will take care of itself. So then once we construct a roadmap for what their goals are, then I have monthly one-on-ones, and that's the first thing we talk about. We don't talk about what the month before or numbers. We go through their personal goals first. And I ask them, hey, are you on track for your savings? Are you on track for your wedding planning? And I hold them accountable, but people really eat that up and they love it. And I truly care. I want to help build better people, not better employees. And so once you get invested in your people, they start to become invested in you. And then you start to have this really beautiful dynamic, and you're clear, transparent, get fun. I've had squirt guns, Nerf guns in my office, do mimosa Fridays in the morning, stuff like that. It's about, we're like basically live with each other, right? 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week. So, have some fun with each other.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. Love those different strategies, and the goal setting and everything like that, which is so important, and that you're including, the personal stuff, because that can be more meaningful. And like you said, it's, that's what it is. People leave most of the time because of bad leadership and management. And if you can make that awesome, then, if people get offers that are, for potentially a bit more money, they probably won't leave anyway, because they're like, you know what, I like, where I'm working at the moment, and you can retain them. Because what are the stats? It's like it costs you 7 to 9 times as much or something to hire a new person rather than to, retain a current person in the business. So, powerful.
Oh, 100%. And I'll tell you, we were talking a little bit about, some of the stuff I've been getting into. And I've had 4 people in the last 2 weeks that I've worked with that prior job say, hey, I miss working with you. Can I come work with you again? Can you budget me in? Or can you slate me for a position? And so it's really cool, because once you buy into that loyalty, like, people will follow you anywhere. And then that's how you create a great business, because then I'm working with people that I already trust. I know, I love, I know their family, they know my family. And it's just really cool. And I think that it's really underserved, and a lot of leaders miss on that component of just being another human being.
Yeah. Love it, mate. Really, really powerful, and testament to you as well, right? With what you're doing, because that basically confirms, right, that you're doing the right thing, where people, want to follow you as well. So that's awesome. And I think part of in business, like, whether you're the entrepreneur, it's probably more important, but even, if you've got people working for you and your teams, is about our mindset, right? Like, how are we improving, upgrading our mindset and things like that? So do you want to maybe talk a little bit about your thoughts on mindset and how we can improve it as well?
Sure. So I'm a huge, into mindset. I have a mindset coach that I meet with every weekend. It's important for me to stay on my regiment for myself, continually positive self-talk. I'm one of those guys that's up early in the morning, 4:30, do my meditation, breath work, journal, reading, constantly just fueling my mind. But when it comes to creating a team atmosphere, it's the same thing. So, again, going back to these kind of stagnant type of environments where most people, they meet bi-weekly, maybe once a week, once a month, even sometimes once a quarter. I met with my team every day. Every day we meet. First thing, 8:00, work starts, we're having a team meeting. And people go, well, that's really psychotic, man. Why would you do that? Like, people are in burnout. And no, it's about setting the tone for the day. Like, right, we have a common mission, and sometimes we have to pivot. The mission can change from day to day depending on how we did yesterday. But also what I like to do, I like to instill mindset. So some days we'll do role playing. Other days I'll play a motivational video for the people. Other days I'll talk about a failure that I've had as a person. And so I like to mix it up and bring a lot of value to my team. And one of the things that I've done, it's been a lot of fun too, is, again, people historically are not always going to do the work on themselves, knowing that they should do the work on themselves. When you apply a little bit of pressure and you get them to start doing work on themselves and they start seeing the results, they get really addicted to it. So I always have a book club for any office or business I'm running. Everybody a part of the organization is reading. And I will not do sales books. We'll read books by Zig Ziglar or Les Brown or Tony Robbins, right? And you kind of force that different types of paradigm shift on them. And it's really interesting to watch people start to make radical changes in their life. And, one of my best friends here now in Texas used to work for me. And now he's a consultant, but he's just turned 27. And when I met him 3 years ago, he had been working for cell phones. He was making like $15 an hour, $17 an hour. Now he's 27 and he's got a 6-figure salary with the potential to make, 7 figures over the next 5 years. And, his skill set has changed, but his mindset has changed 1000%. And he knows that it's all here. And it's beautiful when you see people make those connections that, man, the more work I do on myself, the more I put in, the more I'm going to get out of myself.
Yeah, love it, mate. Completely agree with that and how important our mindset is. I loved a bit of your morning routine there as well, that you talked about some things to get you started for the day. And then, having those weekly calls with your, mindset coach, which is extremely important, coaching and mentoring. And do you want to maybe talk a little bit more about, I guess, coaching and mentoring in general, right? Like you've talked about your mindset coach, but there's a lot of different coaches and mentors out there, right? That we can help us within the business or outside of that, and about, how important it is for you and for other people.
Yeah, I think you just understand there's so many different levels to this game of life. And, it's like you're never done growing. And for me, fundamentally, as a spiritual being, I think that, we're purely here for the evolution of growth. And so it's like, if you don't have a coach, I would really encourage you to go get one. I think that, if you're listening to anybody, they should make sure that they have a coach. And so it's like, I've had sales coaches, last year I had a sales coach that I paid a good amount of money. And it was my age. And, people are like, well, you guys have kind of similar experiences. I'm like, but he's going to find things that I don't do well. And he's going to be able to help point that out. I like that he's about my age, right? Because we came up the same type of way in the same types of environments. Right now, currently, besides the mindset, I have a fitness and nutrition, because it's all about taking care of the temple, right? So I think it's extremely important that you have people that, if you can't afford to get access to, then go buy books. And that's the whole reason I started the Book Legion, right? Because a lot of people are like, well, Ty, I'm not in your position financially. I can't spend thousands of dollars on a coach for XYZ, whatever it is their passion is. Maybe it's business or fitness, or maybe it's mindset. Well, you can go afford a $5 used book on Amazon, and, Grant Cardone or Tony Robbins, Jay Abram, right? They can be your coach through a book or through Audible, through podcasting for free. I mean, there's really no excuse not to have a mentor nowadays. So however you get access to that mentor, I think, is extremely important.
Yeah, amazing, mate. I completely agree with all that. And so many awesome people I've learned from, many of those, you've mentioned as well, and had Jay Abraham on my podcast too. And he's like an encyclopedia of business, Jay. And, but yeah, it's so true that you could just start a books and podcasts, right? And then, when you get to the point, or when there's really a need for something, your business or other areas of life, then find the people you resonate with. I think that's the biggest thing. Find someone you resonate with and go, yep, this person can help me to get me to where I want to be, and go from there, and be open to multiple coaches. Just like, Tyzer's saying, right? He's got these different areas where he's had coaches. Like, it's not like, oh, I've just got one coach and that's it for me, because, different perspectives, different areas of life and business, it can help us in different ways too. So love that, mate. Thanks for sharing that too. I guess in business, there's always a level of risk, right? Like, that's why a lot of people, like having, jobs working for someone, because there's, it's a lot less risk that they get their salaries and things. But as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, there's always a level of risk, in the business, or even, depending on whatever you're at, right? Even if you're working the business, you're at a decent level, you've got to, I guess, look at the risk in the business to make sure that, it's going to be a successful business. So do you want to maybe talk a little bit about risk and how we can, I guess, manage and mitigate, some risks as well?
Well, it's a great question. I just always go back to that Jim Rohn quote. It's all risky. Like, right? It's risky if you try. It's probably riskier if you don't. And so it's just, what are you willing to sacrifice? Because you're going to sacrifice something either way, right? You're either going to sacrifice the dreams, or you're going to sacrifice maybe some potential heartache and some failure. But for me, it's everything I do, to a varying degree, I try to really let my conscience steer me. Like, whatever I feel is risky, or the ego is telling me, no, you don't do that, it's too risky, you'll lose money, you saved up a great nest egg, your family can lose it all of that, then that to me is really more my North Star. And so that's me telling me, okay, here's an opportunity that you need to walk into. You're trying to shut it off because you're scared of what won't happen. So I just try to reframe it and go, well, could I live with it not knowing if it did happen, right? And so to me, again, it's the worst outcome of my life could be not ever living up to my maximum potential. And I don't know where that ceiling is for me. So I constantly lean into fear. And, one of the scariest things I ever did was I moved my family across the country from California to Georgia. My wife and I had business in Orange County, and actually two, and I was working full time. We had a lot going on. Sold both those businesses. I quit my job, which was a nice, 6-figure job, and we moved across the country. We bought a house. We had to pay for in cash because I didn't have a job to be able to show income. So we had basically no money, 2 small kids. And I took a job on the hopes that I could make 3x what I had been. But with my wife had no income. So we basically, we cut our income, it went down by 5x. And we drained our savings account. And I'm in a new place I've never lived in. I had 0 friends. Like, that was terrifying with 2 small children. I know people go through their own experiences, and maybe that's not a big deal to somebody, but to me at the time, I was just like, oh my God. But then I also was thinking, like, well, if I don't do this, then I'll never know. And my wife I'm cool that I've got, she's ride or die with me. She was just like, yeah, well, okay, let's go see what happens. And it was the best thing that's ever happened to us. 18 months from then, I had accomplished what I had set out to do, plus some. I had 3x my income from where I was prior. And so everything worked, and then it allowed me to funnel that money into real estate stuff I wanted to get into, and start another business with my brother. And so she was able to start another business. So, it all worked out perfectly, but most people wouldn't have done that. They would have been like, I got to stay because of my family, or, I can't risk all the money. So that was terrifying.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Great story there. I love that. And it's like what sort of Tony Robbins says about burning the boats, right? Like, once you burn the boats and there's no turning back, then, you find a way with the right mindset, right? You always find a way, there's, in that way. And that's testament to you as well. With everything, it's like, I've got to make this work. And, I did a similar thing when I started my first business, quit my job and started my business the next day. Nothing had started, right? So there's no cash flow coming in, a little bit of money in the bank. And it's like, I just got to get clients and make this happen. And everyone was telling me not to do it, right? It's like, nah, get a job part-time and do it on the side. I'm like, nah, I'm just going all in. And, you got to back yourself in those moments. And, make sure you have, some good resources, some good people around you, or even some good books or something to follow wherever it is, so that you've got some support, at the same time, whether it's coaches, mentors, or just other people to support us as well.
Yeah. And I think that, going back to that point is really key. And I think that you hit a key point, is that you should have different types of coaches and mentors for different aspects of your life. And so, I mentioned a few of the things I've done. So like people, the guy that helps me with the fitness and nutrition is Wes Watson. He's online. You guys can go find him. He's a great guy. He spent 10 years in prison, came out. Now he's 4 years ago, within 4 years, an 8-figure earner. I follow Grant Cardone because he's my mentor when it comes to real estate. I got into Arete Syndicate with Ed Milet and Andy Frisella. I did their program for a year because I wanted to learn about how to scale to a 9-figure business, right? So there's different people that you can listen to. And I do think that it's important to go all in on somebody you resonate with, so the message stays consistent. Because a lot of times happen is people start listening to too many people that have different varying messages, And then they get super confused. Well, should I do what Tony says or should I do what Grant says? So I try to silo my mentors. And once I feel like I've learned enough from them, then I can move on.
Yeah. Great little distinction there on, how to, goal in on sort of one in a particular area and grow it from there. So love it, mate. Really powerful. And I guess a lot of people talk about, all this awesome stuff and things like that, but, there's a lot of challenges in business, right? So do you want to maybe just share maybe one of the biggest business failures or challenges that you've had and how you overcame it as well?
Yeah. I mean, when you're starting a new company, nobody knows you or likes you. No idea. There's no branding presence. And so it's much different than working from a company that's been established for 20, 30, 40 years. And you have great branding and you have a marketing team behind you. And so, the first business I tried, it was a e-commerce retail business, like t-shirts and stuff. And it went terrible. With no idea what we were doing. We went all product first. Spent like $30,000 on product and no marketing strategy. Just like, oh no, if we make the shirts really cool, like people will buy them, And no, they didn't at all. And they ended up with $30,000 of gym shirts. So that was not fun. So then the second time around, I had the same type of concept, more of a defined niche. So I worked in the surf industry in college. You can see I was like, this is an Obey shirt. I wear Ruka, Quicksilver O'Neill. I like those lifestyle brands and being a Cali guy. But I got really big into craft beer. And I was like, man, like all I ever see people wearing to like beer festivals is like cheesy beer shirts. I was like, that kind of sucks. There's no one's like really representing like the seriousness of what it takes to be a brewer. And I got into home brewing. I've made a bunch of my own beer. So I took this concept of applying the surf lifestyle brand to the beer industry. And so I led with proper glassware, because that's a big thing with beer, like it is for wine. You put in certain types of beer in certain types of glassware. And then that was kind of our value prop, was to drink your beer out of a certain type of glassware that's neutral to whatever beer brand that you're drinking. So if you're having a Stone Adams, you can use our glass, because people will post pictures of this type of stuff online. So I kind of saw a little avenue. So attacked that, and then we started designing really cool apparel, kind of going out. You can see my Obey posters behind me. I'm a huge fan of Shepherd Ferry. So kind of took that edge that you had from the Shepherd Ferry and Ruka type and applied it to a beer brand and created apparel. But I went super lean. I spent less than $1,000 on my first run of shirts. And I spent about $500 on my first run. We had the business up and going for about $5,000. And as opposed to going all product heavy. So maybe I said $1,500 on merch, and then it was just all marketing, getting people to the site and whatnot. And then within 12 months, it was a 6-figure business, and we were sold in 50 different countries around the world and every state in the United States. And it was a night and day difference, right? And then I was able to sell it off to a brewery in San Diego.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Great story there. And thanks for sharing that. And the issue initially in the first business, then you were like, no, now we know what not to do.
Yeah.
Let's do it properly now and lead what the market wants and everything like that, and market it properly. So love it, mate. Really powerful. And been a lot of golden nuggets today of what you've shared with us. And I guess as we're starting to wrap up a little bit more now, what one key piece of advice would you give to all of the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
Yeah, no, I tell anybody, you'll always have a successful business, in my opinion, if you can do 2 things, and that's if you can sell and you can lead. You can always keep your doors open. If you get people to follow you and you can open doors, as long as you can deliver on your deliverables, you should be good to go.
Yeah, great points. Completely agree with that. Awesome stuff, mate. We connected through our networks where I learned about your awesome journey from being in various management roles, being the co-founder of Alchemy Cast, creating these other businesses that you've sold off as well. And, obviously, with the 2 podcasts that you have, Grind, Sell, Elevate, and the Book Legion. And I was, grateful to be on Grind, Sell, Elevate as well. So thank you for that too, mate. You're an awesome guy, and I'm sure you continue to help, podcast hosts and businesses to grow and everything like that, to make sure that they're moving forward well. So I'm very grateful that we connected, and look forward to working with you in the future too. So Tyzer, how can people find you and get in contact with you?
Well, thank you. My website is just tyzerevans.com. It's under construction right now. We're doing some updates. So you can't hit me there, but you can find me on I'm most active on Instagram at Tyzer Evans, and then the podcast or on any platform out there.
Yeah, awesome guys. And yeah, definitely check out Tyzer. Like his Grind to Elevate podcast had some awesome guests on there, and awesome value and everything like that. So yeah, really powerful podcast among everything else. Just get in touch with him, if you want to have a chat too, and follow him. And then thank you to everyone for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. Please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. And if you want to grow, scale, cut costs, and increase profit in your business, you can reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. And I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way we'll know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So remember to design your growth and results.